Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues in the United Nations family. I'm delighted to be here at the launch of the National Strategy to Combat Violence Against Women. This launch complements the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence currently running under the theme, Hear Me Too. And I note that today is the eve of International Human Rights Day. So, a propitious day to be thinking and talking about the rights of women to live lives free of violence. It's vital that we collectively address the issue of violence against women in Iraq. The recent horrendous Daesh-perpetrated violence, which has affected so many women in this country, has compounded pre-existing gender inequalities and discrimination. Although public awareness and rejection of violence against women is increasing through media attention, social media activism, creation of hotlines for reporting violence, and the establishment of family protection units, violence against Iraqi women has not abated. Domestic violence remains a particularly grave concern, and media reports are increasingly highlighting abuse and sexual harassment in public spaces. In this context, I note the recent disturbing attack on the office of the Directorate for Combating Violence Against Women in Sulaymaniyah, a building which should represent a safe haven for women seeking refuge from violence and abuse. The United Nations agencies, funds and programs continue to support the government of Iraq in meeting its legal and moral obligations to promote and protect the rights of women. In the forefront of this commitment, UNFPA has provided technical support in developing the national strategy to combat violence against women, which is launched today. This strategy provides a valuable overall framework for policy developers, planners, decision makers to take action on prevention and response with regard to violence against women. Furthermore, the strategy will be a significant tool for the Iraqi government to fulfill its international gender commitments, including the Sustainable Development Goals, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Violence Against Women, United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security, and the Beijing Platform. The United Nations commits to supporting implementation of the strategy to combat violence against women and other national frameworks. UNAMI and the wider United Nations system is already engaging with the new Iraqi government, including the senior political leadership and the Council of Representatives, to advocate for the prioritization of relevant legislation in the new parliament, for example, the anti-domestic violence law. We welcome the efforts of government to establish a committee to examine allegations of sexual harassment, and we stand ready to provide advice and support as appropriate to ensure women's greater safety and security. For example, the United Nations Development Programme has already trained more than 300 officials in handling cases of gender-based violence, conducted awareness-raising sessions on gender-based violence among displaced, refugee and host communities across Iraq's northern governorates, trained 50 police officers in protection of women, established 7 legal aid teams within IDP camps, and offered gender-based violence training to lawyers and social workers among our partner civil society organisations. We welcome the work of the High Judicial Council as it reviews the Iraqi Penal Code, including the amendment or repeal of articles of law which might facilitate, condone, or perpetuate violence against women. You may be aware that the High Judicial Council has taken the welcome step of establishing a league for women judges. In our view, more female engagement is needed in the field of the rule of law and in judicial institutions if Iraq is successfully to prosecute cases of violence against women. Assured access to justice for female survivors of violence is vital to ensure impunity is addressed and justice seen to be done. And we should not forget that addressing violence against women also requires an expansion of economic opportunities for women, widening their political space and visibility. One impact of the conflict with Daesh has been an increase in female-headed households, with many of these families, especially those displaced from their homes, pushed into poverty and vulnerability. Targeted programs for women to access livelihood activities as well as education will be key to their long-term protection from violence, in particular sexual violence, and their rehabilitation. In short, a multi-sectoral, multifaceted approach is a prerequisite for successfully countering violence against women in Iraq. The implementation of this strategy will require engagement by and commitment from a wide range of stakeholders in the health, social, legal, educational and security fields, many of whom I'm pleased to see represented here today. For our part, the United Nations in Iraq remains committed to assisting the Iraqi government and other actors, in particular civil society, in protecting women's rights, promoting their dignity and equality, and meeting their aspirations for an existence free of violence. Thank you. Shukran.